Welcome back everyone to Genshin Interact. I'm Vixen, and today I'm joined by Riff.
Today we will be talking about the upcoming first half of the 3.4 banners and its characters on the banners. If you do enjoy the video, please go ahead and like and subscribe and check out the rest of our channel for other videos you may be interested in.
Now, onto the video. These upcoming two characters, we're going to be talking about Alhaitham and Xiao as the 3.4 banners. What maybe could be what we're going to see inside of him. He's going to be our first Dendro DPS is really where we're going to be unpacking here with Alhaitham. He doesn't seem like he's going to be having too many things kind of going on with helping other characters. He sits very heavily on an EM stat. What are some play styles you maybe would see kind of using the Dendro DPS option that we have now more than maybe somebody like Tighnari?
Well, one thing I'm really excited about, I personally really love Ketching's playstyle, and I think it's really important to point out Alhaitham's gonna really feel like a Dendro version of Ketching. So if you already really like Ketching's playstyle, you'll probably like Alhaitham very much. And I know I would, I just can't afford to pull for him. But aside from that, Tighnari being a bow user, I think it's going to be comfortable to have a different weapon archetype, because right now one of our only options is Tighnari as a bow user. We have Nahida as a catalyst user, Kale's another bow user, and yeah, there is Dendro Traveler, but Dendro Traveler's not really a main DPS, so I feel like Alhaitham's going to be a really fun new character for people to use as a Dendro DPS that uses a sword. I think it's going to be really comfy and really fun. Basically, Ketching, where Ketching does aggravate, but it's the reverse, where it's now Alhaitham doing spread reactions. Because spread is really the same thing through the quicken reaction, just using Dendro, not Electro. So I think it's going to be really fun for a lot of people looking for that kind of thing. If they already have Ketching, they like Ketching. I think it's going to be a great DPS. And like you were saying, we don't really know of any benefits right now to other characters. Of course, as a DPS, you're going to be wanting to buff him. And Vixen, does he scale on EM?
His passive bases off of EM. The more EM you have, the little bit more damage you do. So it's kind of like an extra added bonus. Think of it kind of like if you had a Raiden and you're running ER as an extra thing. Obviously, you want to have the attack percent, the crit, all these other things, but you do want to have the ER so that her electro damage bonus is buffed. Same thing with Alhaitham. You want to have that ability to do all this damage as a DPS, but he has a little bit of a niche product, and especially that it helps super well in the Dendro category. It's going to help him do even more damage. And kind of going along that idea of what he's going to be doing maybe with weapons, his 5-star weapon is going to be coming out, but his 5-star weapon is going to have a main stat number of 88.1 or somewhere around there is crit damage. That is an extremely big number considering the highest crit damage main stat weapons we've seen so far are around the low 60s. So this is a good 20+% jump. And I think that's going to solidify his ability as a damage dealer. Never mind that his weapon as an ability gives crit rate as well as increases his damage by EM as well, feeding back into that passive that he already has. But even though this crit damage weapon is amazing, not everybody has the ability to go for it. People are looking to get some other characters, or maybe they're just low on primos. What do you think, Riff, would be a good 4-star option? Free-to-play event, battle pass. What are some other options that maybe some people that aren't going for the weapon are going to have if they do get Alhaitham?
So the first thing that came to my mind, if I were to get Alhaitham and I didn't have his sword, the first thing I thought of was Iron Sting, just because of that EM main stat. I think that's an okay or viable option to go with. That isn't going to be a bad option, especially if you want like an EM build, like if you're going to go full EM, because we don't know, maybe you want to go full EM and that's viable for certain types of teams, and then in other cases you want more crit and just straight damage, maybe a little EM, but not like full EM. So I think Iron Sting's definitely going to be a good option, especially with that elemental damage bonus. So Vixen, what about with the previous event we had? We got a new 4-star sword. How do you think that is going to play into using on Alhaitham? Do you think it's a viable option?
I definitely think that this is going to be a very good option for him, actually, considering it's been a weapon that a lot of people have been switching and kind of using here and there on people like Kazuha, who love the Iron Sting, which was previously mentioned, that could work on Alhaitham. And considering this would be something that you could use kind of an R5 Sting that's very easy to obtain, it's a free-to-play or even a whale or whatever, you can keep that on your causeway, you can keep that on whoever you're going to be using, like your traveler. This weapon is going to allow us to kind of use this, and we got it as an R5 if you played the entirety of the event. You can use this weapon, considering it has, just like the Iron Sting, an EM main stat already with it, and then it gives a cursed parasol, so it has a 16% chance of actually hitting an enemy, and then you can do more damage. But this weapon would be kind of a very similar usage to the Iron Sting, but it will only be for the people that were there during this past version who played all the way through the event and used the event shop to actually grab the refinements for it. The battle pass, on the other hand, we know the black sword. Could this maybe be a weapon that he could use?
I think it's viable if you need more crit rate. We know it gives more damage, normal and charge attack damage by 20% at refinement 1. So if you haven't, you don't want to spend too much money on the battle pass, maybe you just did it one time and you happen to get black sword, or you're planning to get the next battle pass, even at R1, I think 20% more normal and charge attack damage is a good increase. It also heals passively as you deal damage. So I think it's a good option. It's not a bad one. There's definitely a lot of other swords that, this will be a lot better than. But really, in a free-to-play perspective, I don't think you can go wrong using Iron Sting. If you don't spend a buck on the game and you weren't in the event, you're completely new, and you have some sword billets, you can get those from doing bosses, I think Iron Sting's going to do you wonders if you really want Alhaitham as your first 5-star. It's going to be a really good weapon to use on him, considering that it's free to play.
Next, we need to talk about artifact sets that are going to be most useful for Alhaitham. The first is going to be his 4-piece Deepwood memory set. This Deepwood set is going to give him, on the 2-piece bonus, a 15% dendro damage bonus, which is going to help his DPS even more. The 4-piece set ability is a little unique in and of itself. After hitting skills and bursts, all opponents that will be hit will be given a dendro resistance decrease of 30%, increasing your Alhaitham's damage. Some other piece sets that are going to be good for him are maybe some 2-piece attack bonus sets like Gladiator's Finale with 18% attack, Shimenawa's Reminiscent, and Vermilion Hereafter with the same amount of attack as well. If you really want some more damage for maybe his burst, if that's something you kind of like and like to do, you can throw on a 2-piece Noblesse alongside of it, but I would recommend that you do the attack percent as well as a 2-piece Deepwood to at least get that dendro damage bonus as well as the attack percent bonus as well. So besides having Alhaitham as your main 5-star character, he's not only a new character we're going to be getting. We're getting Yaoyao, and it seems like she's going to be an applier for dendro as well as a healer. In her skill, she's going to be able to kind of throw out these little bunnies that apply dendro and healing, and then in her burst, it's going to be able to increase, and I think that it's going to help Alhaitham a little bit here and there, and even some other teams. I think she's good and useful. I think it's a little bit less of a necessary need for Alhaitham. He puts enough dendro out on the field that Yaoyao's not necessary, but that does not go to say that she's a bad character. I think, without having played her yet, that she's going to be a really, really fun character, kind of a team that you can throw together, maybe a burning team of some sort, because you know you're going to need the healing during that one. But not only that, but you can kind of see how she's going to be able to play in and maybe be a precursor to Baiju. What are maybe your ideas on getting a 4-star?
I think Yaoyao is going to be a pretty big deal among certain players, because we all know dendro application is a pretty big deal in a dendro related team. So depending on whether she applies dendro well, I think it's going to be a big deal to a lot of people. It's going to really increase the value of wanting to get her. Like you were saying though, Vixen, you were saying Alhaitham's going to have a lot of dendro application, especially as an on-field. So I don't think there's a problem there, or especially if you already have Nahida, you're really not going to have a problem with dendro application. I think another thing about Yaoyao that is going to be super valuable is the first and at this point only dendro healer. I think that's going to be really great for a lot of people. It opens up a new archetype of a character. We don't have a dendro healer yet, and I think it's worth mentioning that we will be getting a 5-star dendro healer, Baiju, coming in late Sumeru. But even then, it's like when you don't have Nahida, there still is Dendro Traveler and Kale that can do things for your team to make your other characters really good. I think Yaoyao is going to fill a lot of roles for people that need more dendro characters in general, and also to be used used as the healer in the team without having to worry about using someone like Barbara, Kokomi, or Bennett, etc.
Alongside this first kind of banner that we see on this half, we see Alhaitham and Yaoyao. On the other half, it seems like we're going to be getting Xiao. And this isn't 100% confirmed. We're about 2.5 weeks out beforehand at the making of this video of seeing where it is. But Xiao seems to be a very high likelihood of him being on the second part of this 3.4 banner. You know, he's a character that you could put in a team that needs a DPS if you have a lot of supports, or just a team you're thinking that might be fun, trying to surround him with as much damage dealing help as possible. But Rift, what are some ideas that you have maybe about Xiao and his playstyle, his team function, that maybe aren't worth it or are worth it?
Well, first off, I think it goes without saying, he's a self-reliant character, but I think he's going to be really great for people if you don't have a 5-star yet, you're new, and you just need damage for your account, and you like the idea of Animo DPS. If you don't have Wanderer or didn't pull Wanderer, he's a great hyper carry. He's going to carry your team far, and he'll get you through most of the content in the game. And he doesn't look like he's too difficult to use, so I think for new players, it's a good option. It's a straightforward option. If you're not really looking to put too much time into the game, you just want to enjoy the game, and he looks fun to you, then he's probably the character for you.
Going on to some other different characters that maybe would fill the role better than Xiao would maybe be somebody like Wanderer or Venti. Wanderer was a very good use for somebody who has a lot of supports, has a lot of characters that are going to be useful to them. He's got to really rely on his 4-piece artifact. He's got to really rely heavy on his weapon as well to get all that attack speed, or else he's kind of a little underwhelming without all these buffs from swirling as well. Even though it's easier to get Wanderer's skill than it is Xiao's burst, the damage output is very fast and different. The other thing that we can talk about is kind of a Venti role. Venti's kind of a very support role and very heavily sits in that role. A lot of people have used him as a DPS, and considering his ability to pull enemies together, he really fits that support role a little bit better. And I think that at the end of the day, Xiao's going to be able to do your account better and maybe even use your Venti and your Xiao together. If you have a Venti and you're saying, I don't really want Xiao because I have Venti. Well, the thing is that if you pop a Venti burst and then pop a Xiao burst, everything's going to be pulled very close together, that your Xiao can hit more targets at once and do even more damage and clear stuff like the Spiral Abyss or even domains that much quicker for you. Next, we want to talk about some weapons. You know, what are some 5-star weapons that maybe obviously beside his own weapon are going to be able to help him do more damage? Some other weapons that maybe could be of use besides, you know, the 5-star weapons that are going to be absolutely super powerful for him, with Primordial Jadewing Spear being number 1, the Staff of Homa being number 2. Some Battle Pass weapon that we obviously is going to be great for him is Deathmatch. It has a higher crit rate than Primordial Jadewing Spear. Deathmatch extremely helps if you're either going off of a boss or you're going against multiple opponents. And I think that Deathmatch is definitely a good weapon, a higher crit rate, and heavily helps your attack, as well as if you're going to be using the Battle Pass, trying to get that to R5, that is probably going to be the best thing that you can do. The other weapon that could be used is something like Prototype Starglitter. It has some ER, so you constantly get that burst back, as well as when you use an elemental skill, it increases your normal and charge attacks. Prototype Starglitter is going to be your free-to-play option, considering it is buildable and craftable as well. Xiao in the past has gotten actually a new set for him, so a lot of people are using 4-piece Glad or using some other sets that were good for him, but they quickly came out with something in the Chasm, an artifact set, and that's his Vermilion Hereafter set. It was literally made for him. It's going to help Xiao a lot, considering that if you take damage while in your burst or after popping your burst a certain amount of times, or even just the first time, then you're gaining damage, and then it has multiple stacks. Some pulling options that we've seen today obviously are going to be, you know, your Alhaitham, having Yaoyao, and then Xiao as well. But Alhaitham is going to be our first real Dendro DPS. His 5-star weapon is going to be helping you a lot. It's definitely something I would take the time and effort, if you have the primos, to do so. Try to get his weapon. That is going to help you tremendously. But there are some 4-star weapons that are going to be helping you as well. Yaoyao, even though she's absolutely amazing, and we do think that she's going to be a good healer for Dendro and a good application for other characters in the party, Xiao is an amazing character that we've already seen. He has had multiple reruns. He's a fan favorite of the community, and many people use him as mains. He's going to be a great damage dealer and a pull for your account, being able to put you to that end game that much quicker, and even pulling for his C1 would even be useful as well.
Also, if for some reason you pulled a Farazan on Wanderer's recent banner, but you also didn't get a Wanderer, then you could also consider getting Xiao, because Farazan does work well with any Animo DPS, not just Wanderer, giving all that Animo resistance decrease and Animo damage bonus that is definitely viable, and if that's what you want to do, then it's going to benefit you greatly. We hope that this video could help you decide on whether these characters coming up on the next banner are for you.
As always, if you have any suggestions that may help others, go ahead and let us know in the comments. Thank you again for watching the video, and we'll see you in the next one.